So we've been talking about the heroin epidemic and Narcan and trying to come up with solutions to get people off of this awful, awful addictive opiate drug and the challenges that are there. Well, there are other challenges. People have other addictions. I have a cigarette addiction, which I'm still trying to knock out. Nicotine is a terrible, terrible monkey on my back.
Let me ask you, as far as addiction, because I find this topic amazing, because you could be addicted to a lot of things. It could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be gambling, it could be like you with cigarettes.
Right.
Could you go cold turkey?
You know what?
That's a tough one now.
I think that I could. I haven't managed it yet.
Oh.
But I had a friend of mine who was a lifetime smoker. This happened about 5 years back. Decided he didn't have any underlying health problems. He'd just been to the doctor, check out. No heart problem, no lungs, no cancer, none of that. No emphysema. He quit cold turkey. 3 weeks later, he was dead of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like that. Dovetailing off of that, as it relates to alcohol addiction and any other addictions that require rehab. Got this story, a family of Nelson Ellis, and if you don't know who he was an actor who starred in HBO's True Blood, which is one of those great binge series that people love on HBO. His family just revealed that he died of complications from withdrawal from alcohol. And this is after many stints in rehab. And Nelson again attempted to withdraw from alcohol on his own. Try to do it cold turkey.
Can't do it. It's too tough.
It didn't work. To talk about that and other issues related to, we have Court Nichols, who is the general manager of Taylor Rehab in Houston, Texas. Court, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Court, what are we know the dangers of continuing on a path of addiction, whether it be alcohol, nicotine, or a substance like heroin. We know the impending doom that looms around every corner when someone is gripped by these kinds of addictions, health-wise. What are the things that can crop up if someone tries to do it on their own?
That's a very good question to ask.
That's why I asked it.
See, that's why we have the number one show in the region.
Okay.
Questions like that.
Is that why?
That's why.
Go ahead, Court.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
There's always going to things that can happen when you stop using any drug or alcohol abruptly. You can be using something as simple as an antidepressant, and you're not even supposed to stop those abruptly without talking to a doctor. We're talking about heroin or opiates. There is a withdrawal to those drugs that are extremely painful and sometimes fatal, but usually you just wish you were dying. You wish you were dead. However, when you're dealing with certain benzodiazepines and alcohol, it is extremely, extremely important to have a medical detox. Without a medical detox, with alcohol is actually the most fatal withdrawal of anything. And so it's very important to do that medically.
Court, I got to tell you, I had a friend that was a serious alcoholic, and he was all about the at-home detox, and he had a lot of complications, high blood pressure, swollen liver. He was always agitated. He was hallucinating. I mean, these are some of the symptoms, yes?
Absolutely. Especially, heavy prolonged drinking, especially excessive daily drinking, it disrupts the brain's neurotransmitters. So when someone abruptly stops drinking, that's when you get alcohol withdrawal syndrome. That's when it can set in. Now that's what happened with Mr. Nelson Ellis. You can go into seizures, but what is even worse than the seizure is as the DTs or delirium tremens. And that's when you're in a state of confusion, and you have a rapid heartbeat, sometimes uncontrollably rapid, and you can get kidney failure, and your heart can actually stop. So it's really important to. And when I say medical detox, there is a benzodiazepine called Librium, and when you're under a doctor's care, and he can prescribe Librium, which is a really slow. A long-acting and it's a slow-release benzo that allows a person to relax. It causes relaxation. It calms the mind and the heart. So at that point, the doctor can pump you with fluids and potassium and things of that nature, and watch you and test the blood pressure and look at your liver for about 5 to 7 days. Usually 5 to 7 days is adequate, and then you can actually go into some type of alcohol treatment program.
So after 5 to 7 days, the body is more, I guess, accustomed to not having that daily induction of alcohol, and then it's a psychological issue from that point, is it not?
I would say, I think it's definitely it's going to be more physical when you're dealing with alcohol for about 14 days. 5 to 7 days is adequate to get you to clear the mind a little bit, so you can actually be reasoned with and talk to and get into treatment. However, there's a restless, irritable, discontented stage that's going to last for at least 14 days.
Court, what is it in your brain or your personality that makes you have the addiction to alcohol, to drugs, to gambling, to sex? Do we even know that?
We don't have that exact answer. What we do know is that 1 out of 9 people seem to have an addictive nature, an addictive personality, an addictive brain. A lot of times it starts out really innocent, where you're just like everybody else in high school, drinking a beer and going out with friends. But it seems that 1 out of 9 of those people will not be able to stop. They'll get this mental obsession that keeps swirling in their brain that seems to be beyond their mental control. And once you submit to that mental obsession, once you have that drink, it turns physical, and it turns into an actual physical craving that most normal people do not get. Most normal drinkers or moderate drinkers or even heavy drinkers do not get an actual physical craving that's beyond their mental control.
Really?
And sometimes termed as the phenomenon of craving. It makes men and women make supreme sacrifices rather than to continue to just stop drinking or using drugs for that matter.
Court, I'm a bartender. That's my other job. So I deal with this a lot.
You're an expert.
And I have seen people come in that I love dearly, and they're great customers, but sometimes too good a customer. But they come in, and that first drink, their hands are shaking so bad, and the second that the beer or the alcohol touches their lips, it just calms them right down. Yeah. So I can understand somebody somebody like that, going completely off the sauce, cold turkey, as you said, without a medical detox plan, just going their body just shutting down, and that does happen.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've been in recovery myself from alcohol, and the difference between myself and a normal drinker is, after a normal person that comes to your bar, they may have 2, maybe 3, and then they seem to have a feeling of not being in control, and they don't like that. No. And they may have a feeling of being just a little dizzy, and they don't like that. So for someone like myself, after that first or second drink, we start to get this, our teeth start to chatter a little bit, and we start to get an in control feeling. Right. And we're craving more after the 6th or 7th drink than the person did than a normal person would after their first or second.
What was your drink of choice, Court, when you drank?
It ended with scotch. It ended with scotch with just a dab of water. And
the water helps, doesn't it, Court?
The water was just the drop was so small. I don't even know why I put it in there.
You got a problem, Court. If you're drinking top shelf like I do, Grey Goose, we're talking different, right? I mean, you could drink a lot of it's not going to hurt your body because it is top shelf and very expensive. Is that not right, Court? I mean, it's different from drinking Mickey's Big Mouth.
It's all going to hurt. That's for sure. It's all going to hurt.
Court, on a serious note, explain the hangover. Because I swear to God, when I was a young pup, I could drink that 6-pack of Mickey's and go out and play ball. Now, if I overdo it, I drink too much and I have a hangover, I swear to God, I don't come out of the bedroom. I mean, I'm almost suicidal. What happens to your body then?
Your brain swells, Tracy.
Well, that's.
But I think that's just the aging process. It's an aging process, and with alcoholics, it's tissue damage. It's tissue damage, and that's why you see an alcoholic who stopped drinking for 3 to 5 years, and then he picks up a drink 5 years later. He ends up at that same spot that he was 5 years prior. He starts his tolerance is at that same level, and the hangover is at the same level as it was. It's tissue damage.
As you continue your recovery, I've heard a lot of people who are recovering alcoholics say, "I just wake up every morning and say I'm not going to drink today." They don't think about it in terms of like I'm not going to ever have a drink. They think about it. I'm not going to drink today. Is that kind of the way you handle your recovery?
Absolutely not. Mine's the opposite. I tell myself, I know that I'm going to drink today if I don't do 3 things and try to get those things in perfect unity. There was, and many alcoholics or addicts can understand this. Every day of my life, it was my last joint. It was my last beer. It was my last drink, and I lied to myself for 11 years, telling myself it was the last one. So I don't lie to myself anymore, because what happens in us alcoholics or addicts, what happens is that once we start feeling normal again and become looking normal and reacting normal, we forget. We forget that we have an addictive brain and an addictive way of thinking, and that we still suffer from this obsession that every once in a while works its ugly head. So if I don't try to help other alcoholics and addicts every day, if I don't try to have to enlarge upon my spiritual life every day, and if I'm not in unity with other alcoholics and addicts, I will relapse, and I'm clear on that. So I don't tell myself I'm not going to. I tell myself I know I will unless I do this.
Boy, Court, you had some issues, though. I mean, you were addicted to drugs. It sounds like you were addicted to alcohol. You were a smoker. I mean, you had a lot going on there.
Yeah, I was addicted to anything that made me feel good, and I had to understand
What about
why.
sex?
Because
you can be addicted to that as well. There's a lot of people out there that have issues.
There are. If there's a mental obsession that is coupled with an actual physical craving for something that's beyond your mental control, it can be classified as an addiction. It can, absolutely. I like sex, never been addicted, and plus my wife's listening, I'm sure, so that never happened. But, yeah, absolutely.
Again, Court Nichols is the general manager of Taylor Rehab in Houston, Texas, correct?
Yeah, Taylor Recovery in Houston, Texas. We're the largest rehab and sober living community in Houston, and probably the most referred to in the state of Texas. And we've got people that fly from all over the country to learn how to live sober with us.
Well, I appreciate taking the time today, because I think it is germane to the heroin discussion, and as you mentioned, the alcohol, which is your experience, and addiction is addiction, and if you try and go it alone, you're in for a really rough road. I guess that's the point, right, Court?
Absolutely, especially when you're trying to detox off of alcohol.
Right. Court, let me ask you just one thing real quick, because I find this addiction, I don't understand it, and that's someone who's addicted to gambling. What goes on there?
That's
not a physical thing, though, is it?
No, alcohol and opiates can be physical. Most of the other things are psychological. But I tell you what, real quick, they did a CAT scan of some people that were gambling.
Yeah.
And the brain waves were almost similar to somebody that was doing cocaine. Yeah. It's that
they get
that
a high off that, don't they?
It's dopamine.
Absolutely, and they need a tolerance. Once they win $100, now they need to win 150, and then they need to win 200. They're not getting that high off of each win, if you will. So it's unbelievably, it's
scary.
The exact same deal.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Court. Appreciate your time today.
Great information, Court.